does science falsify or verify the claim of religion that God created, that God, as a loving, beneficent God, created a good world? And if God, and why apparently did God create a world where animals attack, kill, and consume each other?
Yeah, thank you. What the scripture says is that God looked at the creation that he had made and it was very good. But the idea that there was no animal death or suffering prior to the fall is, I think, a young creationist myth that isn't in the text at all. There's nothing in the description of the fall of man in Genesis 3 where the curses are placed on Adam and Eve for the fall that suggests that animal death is one of the curses of the fall. The man is cursed, that he will have labor and toil in bringing forth his living from the ground of the earth. The earth is cursed in the sense it'll bring forth thorns and thistles. The woman will have pain in childbearing, but there's no suggestion in Genesis 3 that animal pain and death is a result of the fall. And in Romans 5, the passage that Doug referred to, when it talks about how death entered into the human race as a result of Adam's sin, again, there's no suggestion there that that's talking about animal death. And it's not even talking, I think, about human physical death. It's talking about spiritual death. Okay. So this is one of the oddest examples, I think, of folks who claim to believe the Bible in a very literal way, but are in fact reading huge implications into the Bible that simply aren't there. They're reading things in between the lines. It may well be the case that when God looks at this ecosystem that involves predators and herbivores and all the rest, that he sees this as a beautiful whole, a beautiful system that works fantastically. And this, I think, is something that fits in very well with what science talks about with regard to the so-called Gaia hypothesis, that the Earth is like a sort of beautiful, functioning, well-balanced organism that involves kind of a recycling of the materials.
Well, I don't claim to be able to design anything better, just...
just to give one little example of this. I recently saw a program on PBS about how they are introducing wolves into northern United States and Canada because the caribou herds, in the absence of these predators, are so multiplying that the caribou are eating all of the pasture, and as a result, the caribou themselves are dying off because they get disease-ridden. The aged and the diseased animals are not eaten by the predators anymore, and so disease is rampant, the food is short, and the caribou themselves are perishing because of the lack of the predators. So by introducing wolves into the ecosystem, it gets rid of the diseased and the aged, and the caribou themselves actually flourish because of the presence of these predators in the ecosystem. Now, I don't know if that's what Genesis had in mind when it said God looked and saw that it was very good, but in the Proverbs, for example, it does say things like that God gives the young lions their prey, that they roar and God provides food for them. So that would fit in with what modern science tells us about well-balanced ecosystems, that it does require all the elements of it to have a functioning biosphere, which ultimately will be a suitable place for human beings to live and flourish.